Microsoft's new services agreement published July 30th of 2023 really drives home the fact that big tech is the industry of data harvesting and we are the cornucopia. These terms, which became effective on September 30th, 2023, start off exactly how you'd expect. Your privacy is important to us. This is a pretty tepid start for what we're about to get into. Here, under your content, Microsoft tells us that many of our services allow you to create, store, share, and receive materials from others. We don't claim ownership of your content remains yours, and you are responsible for it. Let's focus on that last part. Your content remains yours, and you are responsible for it because the immediate follow up to this is when you share your content with other people, you understand that they may be able to, on a worldwide basis, use, save, record, reproduce, broadcast, transmit, share, and display your content for the purpose that you made your content available on the services without compensating you. If you do not want others to have that ability, do not use the services to share your content. It continues, to the extent necessary to provide the services to you and others, to protect you and the services, and to improve Microsoft products and services, you grant to Microsoft a worldwide and royalty-free intellectual property license to use your content, for example, to make copies of, retain, transmit, reformat, display, and distribute via communication tools your content on the services. If you publish your content in areas of the service where it's available broadly online without restrictions, your content may appear in demonstrations or materials that promote the service. I think the message is pretty loud and clear, but before we go any further, we need to figure out what the services is. It turns out the services is everything. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the agreement, you'll find an extensive list of covered services, which includes Bing Search, Clipchamp, Cortana, which is their voice assistant, Microsoft 365 applications and services, Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft Teams, Minecraft, MSN services, OneDrive, OneNote, Paint, Skype, Windows Movie Maker and Photo Gallery, and Xbox services, just to name a few. Back at the top of the agreement, it prompts us to read the privacy statement, which was also recently updated in October of 2023. This statement starts out by explaining that users have the right to decline consent, but if they deny consent to certain data collections, Microsoft may not be able to provide correlating services. That's fair enough, but we're not here for the lukewarm welcomes. We're here because I wanted to point out something in the How We Use Personal Data section where it says, our processing of personal data for these purposes includes both automated and human methods of processing. Our automated methods are often supported by our manual methods. For example, to build, train, and improve the accuracy of our automated methods such as artificial intelligence, we manually review some of the predictions and inferences produced by automated methods against the underlying data from which the predictions and inferences were made. These recent updates make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. In 2019, Microsoft entered a partnership with artificial intelligence developer OpenAI with a $1 billion investment. OpenAI was founded in 2015 with a stated goal of advancing digital intelligence in the way that is most likely to benefit humanity as a whole, unconstrained by a need to generate financial return. But shortly after Microsoft's initial investment, OpenAI released a blog post in March of that same year announcing that the company had shifted to a hybrid for-profit, nonprofit model, which they alternatively called a capped profit entity. This model currently restricts initial investors from making more than 100 times their money with lower returns for later investors such as Microsoft. Since that initial announcement, however, Microsoft has invested an additional $2 billion in 2021 and pledged another $10 billion starting in 2023. In exchange for this massive IV drip, Microsoft will reportedly receive 75% of OpenAI's profits until it secures its investment returns. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman stated, Microsoft shares our values and we're excited to continue our independent research and work towards creating advanced AI that benefits everyone. But what the two companies really share is a close entanglement of products, services, profit, and priority access. OpenAI's artificial intelligence models are being trained on Microsoft's Azure supercomputer, while congruently being integrated across Microsoft products such as Bing Search, GitHub coding tools, Microsoft 365 bundles, and Azure cloud services. In their 2019 blog post, OpenAI highlighted a notice stating that despite the shift in the economics of their business model, they remain committed to their mission of ensuring that safe artificial intelligence is developed and benefits all of humanity. Since then, a lot has changed and a lot has happened. In March of 2023, OpenAI faced a complaint made to the Federal Trade Commission that urged the agency to investigate and suspend commercial deployment of large language models, or LLMs, including the extremely popular ChatGPT. The complaint, which was made public by the nonprofit Center for AI and Digital Policy, stated that OpenAI had violated Section 5 of the FTC Act, which prohibits unfair and deceptive business practices. The group called GPT-4 biased, deceptive, and a risk to privacy and public safety, and that the LLM had failed to meet current standards for AI to be transparent, explainable, fair, and empirically sound while fostering accountability. A request was made for the establishment of structures to assess and regulate such products before public and commercial deployment in the future. Not long after Microsoft and OpenAI faced their first major class action lawsuit filed by the Clarkson law firm. The complaint noted various violations such as violation of electronic communications privacy, violation of computer fraud and abuse, and violations regarding invasion of privacy, unfair competition, and deceptive business practices. Some notable statements from the complaint read, in 2019, OpenAI abruptly restructured itself, abandoning its original goals and principles to pursue profit at the expense of privacy, security, and ethics. It doubled down on a strategy to secretly harvest massive amounts of personal data, including private information and conversations, medical data, and information about children without notice or permission. Once trained on stolen data, defendants saw immediate profit and rushed products to market without implementing proper safeguards or controls. The head of the alignment team and safety at OpenAI directly acknowledges these risks. Additionally, defendants continue to create economic dependency, deploying the tech directly into the hands of society and embedding it into fundamental infrastructures as quickly as possible. Through their AI products, which are integrated into every industry, defendants collect, store, track, share, and disclose private information of millions of users. Defendants unlawfully obtain access to and intercept this information from individual users of applications and devices that have integrated ChatGPT. This includes applications such as Snapchat, Stripe, Spotify, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and medical patient portals such as MyChart. Despite established protocols for the purchase and use of personal information, defendants chose theft. They systematically scraped 300 billion words from the internet, including personal information obtained without consent. OpenAI did so in secret and without registering as a data broker as it was required to do under applicable law. The case was recently dropped without prejudice. However, this doesn't render the statements in the complaint untrue. A second major class action lawsuit was filed by law firm Morgan & Morgan and cites similar, if not identical, grievances to the prior case. Last fall, Microsoft was also added to yet another claim against OpenAI coming from the Authors Guild, including 17 very well-known authors. Within the complaint, it stated that AI services threaten the livelihoods of the very authors whose works the AI technology was trained on. It also notes that Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella recently reminded the world that the heavy lifting for OpenAI's LLM training was done using Microsoft infrastructure. Additionally, the New York Times revealed last August that it was also considering suing OpenAI. The Times and OpenAI had originally been in talks regarding compensation from OpenAI to the New York Times for use of its content. However, the conversations failed to produce a workable agreement and became tense and strained over how generative AI should be allowed to use writers' original work. In response to this, the New York Times updated their terms of services and blocked OpenAI's web crawler from using content from its publication. At the end of 2023, on December 27th, it was reported that the New York Times had decided to move forward with legal action. A spokesperson from OpenAI said that they had believed that the ongoing conversations had been productive and constructive, and that they were surprised and disappointed with the development. I suppose playing stupid is always an option until it isn't. The New York Times has clearly stated its concern over the fact that AI is still a new and developing technology. Because of this, it often gets things wrong and poses risks to reputations while at the same time threatening the livelihoods of those who ended up providing developmental training materials in the first place. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman was recently asked during an interview to comment on the company's stance towards copyrighted and individual works.
Sam, I want to ask you about something else that people are not happy about when it comes to these language and image models, which is this issue of copyright. I think a lot of people view what OpenAI and other companies did, which is sort of hoovering up work from across the internet, using it to train these models that can, in some cases, output things that are similar to the work of living authors or writers or artists. And they just think like this is the original sin of the AI industry, and we are never going to forgive them for doing this. What do you think about that? And what would you say to artists or writers who just think that this was a moral lapse? Forget about the legal, whether you're allowed to do it or not, that it was just unethical for you and other companies to do that in the first place.
Well, we block that stuff. Like, you can't go to like DALL-E and generate something. I mean, you get, speaking of being annoyed, like we may be too aggressive on that. But I think it's the right thing to do until we figure out some sort of economic model that works for people. And we're doing some things there now, but we've got more to do. Other people in the industry like do allow quite a lot of that, and I get why artists are annoyed.
I guess I'm talking less about the output question than just the act of taking all of this work, much of it copyrighted, without the explicit permission of the people who created it and using it to train these models. Do you think what would you say to the people who just say that, Sam, that was the wrong move, you should have asked, and we will never forgive you for it?
Well, first of all, like, always have empathy for people who are like, hey, you did this thing and it's affecting me, and we didn't talk about it first, or it was just like a new thing. Like, I do think that in the same way humans can read the internet and learn, AI should be allowed to read the internet and learn. Shouldn't be regurgitating, shouldn't be, violating any copyright laws. But if we're really going to say that like AI doesn't get to read the internet and learn, and if you read a physics textbook and learn how to do a physics calculation, not every time you do that in the rest of your life, like, you got to like figure out how to like, that seems like not a good solution to me. But on individuals' private work, we try not to train on that stuff. We really don't want to be here upsetting people.
I think it's worth noting that OpenAI is under pressure to turn a profit. While their revenue is expected to skyrocket, the company still owes Microsoft 75% of its profits until it returns $13 billion in investments. Some sources report that OpenAI may still owe profits beyond this, however, the exact terms of the partnership remain unconfirmed. Despite many outlets reporting otherwise, Microsoft has made it clear that it does not own any part of OpenAI on paper, and it's been careful not to overstep boundaries, which most likely has been very intentional. By avoiding direct ownership, Microsoft has been able to fly under the radar of regulation. With their recent tussle with regulators over their ultimately successful campaign to acquire gaming company Activision Blizzard, this understated way of acquiring technology without actually acquiring OpenAI as a company makes a lot of sense. While OpenAI claims to see Microsoft merely as a customer, the robust intertwining of the two companies seems to exhibit otherwise. Microsoft's aggressive entanglement, especially at such an early age, gives them an upper hand, and their creative acquisition tactics have landed them in a win-win situation. A spokesperson from OpenAI revealed that Microsoft has an exclusive license on their core LLM GPT-4 and all other OpenAI models. At the same time, OpenAI's dependence on Microsoft has increased exponentially, with Microsoft becoming an exclusive provider of computing power for research and programming interfaces. Regardless of what the two companies have signed on paper, this level of reliance and integration complicates matters when it comes to topics like future separation. In the end, having a large legal budget is clearly a good investment. Microsoft was able to negotiate a pretty substantial blueprint of the new company's technology, and if anything should ever go awry, such as OpenAI's CEO suddenly being fired by its own board members, Microsoft will be very much okay. TLDR, Microsoft is aggressive and has secured the bag so that it can stay aggressive. Which brings us back to Microsoft's legal poetry about how the services owns just about anything that touches it. I made another short video where I talk about my experience using Microsoft's OneDrive and how it tried to vacuum all of my programs and files without my consent. If you're interested or you're having similar issues, I'll have it linked below. If you found this content interesting, stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be about Apple's rather interesting privacy policies. Please consider liking and subscribing, and maybe I'll see you in the future.